Well, it certainly feels like a Super Bowl game, Nick.
It's a big one, yeah.
Exactly. The Raptors and Sixers will play Game 6 of their best-of-7 series tonight. Philadelphia fans, they booed the Sixers on Monday night during their 103-88 Game 5 loss on home court.
Yeah, so let's take the mood of Philadelphia right now. We're joined live by Noah Levick. He's a Sixers reporter for NBC Sports Philadelphia. Noah, we're glad to have you here this afternoon. Let's talk about that. The mood in Philly, you know, you guys were up 3-0. Suddenly it's 3-2. How nervous are Sixers fans?
I think the nerves are quite high here, in part because the Sixers' history. Last year, of course, in the second round of the playoffs, they were up 2-1 and then blew leads in games 4 and 5 and had a heartbreaking loss at home. So the team, I think, has some understandable anxiety in this situation. And the reality is their MVP finalist, Joel Embiid, is playing through a right thumb injury that is quite serious and that is impacting his play. So that makes their situation tougher and I think increases the Raptors' odds of pulling off something historic here.
Right, and Noah, you mentioned Joel Embiid. He certainly is the biggest threat for Toronto, one of the biggest threats. However, in Game 5, we also saw how Danny Green, a former Raptors who recently got his NBA championship ring, we saw how he was getting in all those three-pointers as well. So what's the status of Embiid's injury for tonight, and are there any other Sixers players who will not be playing in Game 6?
So there's Matisse Thybulle, who, of course, has not been available throughout the series because he is not fully vaccinated, and that has had an impact, no doubt. The Sixers shortened their rotation to 8 players for games 3 and 4, and perhaps they'll do that again. Perhaps they'll employ Furkan Korkmaz for this game 6 and try something different. But otherwise, the Sixers should have everyone available. And, of course, Toronto potentially will be without Fred VanVleet again, who's doubtful with this left hip flexor injury. But the Raptors have done great these past couple of games, making up for his absence. And I think their size and athleticism and relentlessness, like all those qualities, have bothered the Sixers in a big way.
Noah, let me ask you, as a reporter that covers the team, I wonder if you could sort of reflect a little bit on kind of the mood of the team in the scrums and post-game news conferences, you know, after games 1, 2, and 3 versus after games 4 and 5. You know, they were brimming with confidence the first 2 games. There was a 35-point difference in the, you know, the score. They effectively dominated the Raptors, played them off the court. Game 3 was much closer, and then game 4 and 5 were losses. How have you seen any, you know, changes to the reaction of the Sixers team and even Doc Rivers after that?
I think after Game 5, honestly, the vibe was a bit shell-shocked. I think the Sixers understand what went wrong and that they need to play with greater intensity, and they can't afford to commit costly turnovers that fuel the Raptors' transition offense, but it does not feel like the team is confident that it will shore up all of those issues and will have fixes available for Game 6. So I think the recent history, the team, of course, doesn't want to dwell on that and doesn't want to let that bog down how it plays here. But there are some nerves heading into this game because the Sixers now recognize how threatening the Raptors are. And they've seen that if they don't play at a high level, that is probably going to be punished. And it is probably going to lead to a Game 7 on Saturday night in Philadelphia.
Okay, let's talk about Game 7, Noah. What are your kind of, I don't want to ask what your predictions are for that, but it will be back in Philly. How do you see it playing out?
If it's necessary, I think, of course, the Raptors will have greater momentum, and the Sixers will understand that they could potentially become the first team ever to blow a 3-0 series lead. My prediction heading into this series was the Sixers would win it in 7 games, and that potentially would still be on the table because the Sixers have 2 incredibly talented all-stars who are capable of scoring explosions. But James Harden hasn't been the best version of James Harden. The Sixers are still pushing him to be more aggressive. They're hoping he shoots better than he has thus far. And I think the Raptors would have an awfully good shot if this series does indeed make it to 7 games. So I think the Sixers at least recognize that the urgency should be high to finish it in 6 and not require a 7th game in this series.
Okay, well, Noah, Levick, we're a bit conflicted. I want to say thank you and good luck, but I'm wishing our team good luck tonight. So thank you for joining us to chat about this. Appreciate it so much. Take care.
Absolutely. Thank you.